Hello, hello, hello. So today I will actually be discussing a topic that has always sort of been on my mind, and I'm pretty sure, you don't really have to be like a super deep person to have thought about this in your life or to have thought about the impact that you have on the other sentient life that lives on this planet, including nature and your neighbor. Um, but I'll also be discussing how it relates to a specific verse in Ecclesiastes, and that would be Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verse 18. And it's about wisdom. So I'm going to get started. I saw a video last week, and I'll leave the title of the video in my description, but basically, Robin Greenfield, I'm not sure if any of you have ever heard of him before, but he did a YouTube video titled Truth Talk on Living Without Money. Now, naturally, I see a title like that and I'm just like, okay, literally, what the hell is this guy talking about? I've been living without money my whole life. No, I'm joking. but I'm just saying, it was intriguing and I just was curious, like, what does he mean living without money? We live in a monetary system. We work and we're paid money. There really is no escaping it, right? So I was curious and I clicked on it just to kind of see where this guy was coming from. And yeah, he truly had a point in his life. I'm not sure if he's still doing it or not. Don't quote me, but I do know he said he had vowed to do it for a specific time in his life. And so he truly was living without money, no bank accounts, no savings. I would highly recommend watching the video. It definitely was super interesting. But aside from it being super interesting, he really hit on a lot of points that had to deal with how money is used in our modern society and the harm that it causes. And, this isn't going to be a video like bashing capitalism or anything, or like, I just like to talk about things that have to deal with the human condition and how we can think about these things rationally and be aware of them. I think kindness and our lives becoming better just as a society has a lot to do with us just becoming more aware, because like Ecclesiastes mentions, with more wisdom, with more self-awareness, it says, for in much wisdom is much vexation, and he who increases knowledge increases sorrow. So basically what that means is, with the increase of your knowledge and wisdom, I wrote here in my study guide that basically the truth destroys your life. In some ways, it kills you, but it's a blessing that comes with responsibility. And the word responsibility is two words: your responsibility, how you respond to situations. So the more wisdom, more awareness of the tragedies and the pains of life. And so that's what I put here, as what I got from this verse. Now, the thing is, when you are aware, like actually aware, that our monetary system is inherently destructive and abusive and exploitative to human life, animals, the earth, just inherently, right? And like, then you'll think, well, I'm just going to use my money for good. And it's like, that's wonderful. There's a lot of people doing that. But what I want to get at is when you're dealing with something that has inherent harm built into it, right? It's like when you're paying your taxes or whenever you're swiping your credit card or whatever it is that you're supporting here comes with a level of exploitation to someone else. Like with every convenience, right, that we get to enjoy, for example, as Americans, someone else has paid that price for our convenience. And I think, I mean, even down to like this cell phone I'm using, right, to record this live stream, tons of exploitation and harm has been had, right, to create these phones. And so it's just like, okay, when you become aware that our systems are inherently destructive, how do we not just exist, right? But how do we actually try to create less harm? Because I don't think, as long as we are engaging and interacting in these systems of exploitation, especially technology is one of them, right? We don't even have to talk about money, but there's a lot of slavery involved with creating technology and creating these conveniences, right, that we get to enjoy. I remember when I first started becoming aware of this, learning about your footprint, right? How much damage the things that you like to use are causing. Like, how are these things causing harm to other people? And it's not that we should these things are ingrained in the society. So this video is not about like, oh, stop using these things and let's all just stop using money. That's just not even practical, right? And I like to try to be a logical, grounded person here, especially considering that when you consider the truth and the nature of everything, you begin to realize that acceptance truly is what it's all about, but not just acceptance like, oh, we have to just deal with the fact that everything is demonic and inherently connected to like exploitation and destruction. But how can we make decisions in our personal lives that mitigate some of this harm? And how can we be more compassionate people to people, in the world who live in different countries, who might not have some of the privileges, right, that we get to enjoy? And how do we use these things without the guilt? And, how do we move forward as a society to mitigate this? How do we stand up? How do we fight, right? That's really what I wanted to bring up here. And also, how does it make you feel, right? Just knowing that a lot of the systems that money has produced, I kind of feel like, because when I think about like ChatGPT, for example, and all of the workers who are exploited in Africa to create, to train the AI, right? Some people have to train AI, right? And so you have people in Africa who are working in horrendous conditions for very, very little pay to train these, AI systems. And it's like, these people are just trying to live. I mean, they're not even being paid a living wage and they're not even given job security. So it's like, here we are, right, using ChatGPT, and it's like, it's all well and good, but someone is literally suffering to a point of quite possibly suicide for us to have this. And again, I'm not someone who likes to be like, doom and gloom and everything and just like, oh, I hate everything. this really is like, I'm over that phase in my life, right? I'm more of like, let's just talk about these things, right? Let's see if there are ways that we can move forward ethically, because I feel like at the end of the day, we're the only ones who can make our existence here better. It's not going to come from, the sky. We have to make these things happen for ourselves, right? And so, I don't know. Let me know what you think about this. If anyone leaves a comment, I will definitely respond. But I just think that the more aware you become, the more wisdom you gain, like Ecclesiastes says, about the world around you, about what's actually going on. Things become burdensome. Your sorrow will increase, and how do you deal with that sorrow of knowing that, damn, everything I engage with here, there is a form of suffering that I am participating in by the nature of just using money or supporting a company that may be exploiting, or working at a company, right, that's exploiting. It's like, I know that this can seem really extreme. And even Robin Greenfield said that it is extreme, right? The way he lives, and that he doesn't plan to live that way forever. It's experiments. But, I'm always also thinking like, but life is extreme. This life that we live is extreme. If you really think about it, we don't ever know what's going to happen next, tomorrow, or, it's like, that's a pretty extreme way to live. And I think extreme problems require extreme measures, so at the end of the day, I do think that coming to terms with the truth will help us, though, in a sense, just come back to reality. Like, none of us are clean here. Everyone's hands are dirty. And I just hate this like holier than thou attitude that like people have. And it's like, well, all of us are contributing to harm on this planet, okay, in some form or fashion. And it's just like, we need to be realistic about even the conversations that we have about God and holiness and living righteous and all of this. Like, that's great. That's wonderful. And we should have those conversations, right? But I'm just saying that let's not become delusional, right? I've lived in a delusional world for a large part of my life, and I have no desire on returning back to delusion, right? I would like to be grounded in reality, right? And so I do love the conversations about holiness and about living better, developing a relationship with God for yourself, right? Spirituality, all of this. But at the same time, I feel like if I'm going to be discussing those things, I also need to discuss the people who don't even have a Bible, right? The people in countries where they can't even have a Bible. They'll be in jail or killed for having this, right? I can't sit up here and talk about these things without talking about the realness of life, right? I can't sit up here and talk about God and holiness and praying and all of that if I'm not also talking about the exploitation and, talking about the persecuted Christians, right? I mean, I'm just saying. So I'm also going to talk about how the money we all use, all of us, is inherently connected to demonic institutions that support forms of exploitation and destruction of human life, animal life, nature. Okay. And so what do we do with that? Right? I don't have answers. I'm just here to present, a conversation, because everything starts with ideas and thinking and critical thinking. These degenerates outside of my window with these damn dirt bikes are so aggravating. It just made me lose my whole damn train of thought. I swear, guys, I cannot wait to move. I think I was saying how the money that we all use, is inherently connected to demonic systems. And I don't want us to be delusional about, a lot of people, oh God, a lot of people use spirituality as an escape from life, right? And I can kind of tell people do that. It's like, when you want to be talking about God and spirituality and making your life better, it's like, but this really is about the human story. This is really about humanity. This is really about all of us. Like, my walk with God is not about my walk with God. It's about society. It's about the people I'm around and impacting. It's not just my relationship with God. It's not just me, right? Like, if you really want to get into Christ teachings and things, this is about community, loving your neighbor, loving people, caring about other people, caring about the people who don't have anything, caring about people who are being abused, people, you know what I mean? It's not about you praying for a house or me praying for, like, I don't know, any material thing. And there isn't anything wrong with wanting to live, how you want to live. I'm never like that. This is not, I think the people who this message is for is going to get it. So I'm just not even going to be giving these disclaimers, because it's like, if you don't understand where I'm coming from, then this message is not for you. But I think that I like to live from a grounded perspective, especially when it comes to my spirituality. If my revelation or message can't also help someone who's incarcerated for their faith, to me, it's empty, right? Like, I'll give you one example. All of these prosperity gospels and, it's like, that's great and everything, but can that work for somebody in a third world country who literally doesn't even have shoes or clothes or anything? Who doesn't have a cell phone, who doesn't have access to Wi-Fi? Like, if this message doesn't apply to them, this is not considered, to me, real spirituality, real conversations about God and salvation and what that actually means, and freedom. And so when I listened to that video on living without money and the systems of destruction and exploitation, it made me think, well, what is salvation? What actually is freedom? What is it? Because I think we talk about it so much, but even myself, this week on my way to the doctor, I was in a taxi and the thought just crossed my mind. What does even freedom look like for a person living in 2025 in the current climate? What would freedom, like, if you could just imagine, I would like for you to do this. Sit down, take 5 minutes, if you have a spare 5 minutes to spare, because I know everybody busy. Try to imagine, and I mean for real, what would freedom actually look like? Because I feel like this life has stolen so many of our imaginations that we can't even imagine, right? Like you've lost the capacity to even imagine anything. So imagine what freedom looks like, because so many of us, we talk about it all the time. We know we want it, but I don't even think, that we've envisioned what does it look like though? What does freedom look like for you in 2025 living in a monetary system? Does it look like a whole bunch of money? Does it look like no possessions or money and just living free? Like, because some people think that's freedom. Some people think having a whole lot of money is freedom. But I want you to imagine, what is freedom for you? What does that look like? To me, I think the truth is freedom, because what happens with truth is that it destroys your life. Like I said, it kills you basically. Truth is a destructive force. Truth is destructive in nature inherently. And so what does freedom look like to you? It's the destruction of the life you have, I can tell you that much. I just think so many of us have associated freedom with just having a bigger, nicer cage to exist within. But that's my opinion. What does freedom look like to you? Is it, because I think we're coming to a point in time where we're going to have to figure that out for ourselves. We're going to have to figure that out, because with AI and especially the exploitation that is associated with AI coming into fruition, we're being forced to acknowledge our humanity in ways that we've never have before. We need to know what freedom looks like for ourselves. And we need to know what being a human being looks like for ourselves. Because with the exploitation between AI, the exploitation of our monetary system, the exploitation of people in countries where they can't express their faith, with all of the exploitation that's going on and the rise of AI, the people being exploited, the people at the bottom are only going to be worse off. And so how do we stand up for ourselves and stand up for those people? How do we stand up for our humanity as a whole? And I used to think it was pursuing knowledge, but it has to be more than that. And I think we're going to have to figure out ways to manage our sorrow. How I manage my sorrow with increased wisdom, as Ecclesiastes puts it, is I develop a relationship with God. That's the only thing that is getting me through. And I pray that you find what is going to get you through, and to just know that God is in control at the end of the day. And all we can really do is be consciously aware of the things that we do. Live a repentant life at the very least. And create less harm wherever you can, I mean, that's what I do, right? It's like, well, I have to use a cell phone right now. I have to make reconciliation in my soul, right? I can't just ignore the fact that I know that slavery and harm and destruction and exploitation is happening because I get to use this cell phone or get to use ChatGPT. I can't ignore that. I'm not someone who can just ignore the reality of life, right? There are people who can. More power to you, but my brain wasn't made that way. Sometimes I wish I could ignore these things, but at the end of the day, that would mean we care about other people here, or at least we should. I think our world would be a lot safer for us here. But we all are going to have to reconcile. Burying our heads in the sand about the exploitation on this planet isn't going to make it go away. And so that's really all I wanted to discuss today and bring up and get you to sort of kind of think about when it comes to money and how it's inherently, even the welfare system. The welfare system is, I learned through a young woman I follow. Shoot, when I get her name, I'll put it in the comment section, but she mentioned the welfare system being a Jezebelic system of control, because it is. And it really does keep people in a bondage. It actually does. I did some thinking on this. And I was like, this is really, really terrible. Again, something that's created that appears like it's to help, but it's really harming. It's harming a lot of people. To me, that's not freedom. Freedom would actually be being able to grow your own groceries, right? I mean, they could easily do that for poor people, right? They could create classes for people who are poor to learn farming. I mean, I just feel like a lot of these problems that we have are not hard to solve. And you just got to start asking yourself, well, I don't think someone somewhere doesn't want these problems solved, right? At some point, you got to kind of ask yourself. Because I would allow people to grow their own food. I would have programs. I would let it be free, learn farming, right? At the very least, you can grow your own vegetables and greens. You don't have to grow all of your food, right? Like, because you got to start somewhere. You can't just, right? But why can't you just have a program where people who are on welfare can go to a class and learn farming twice a week, maybe? And, maybe a few times a year, they can get to pick their own greens, whatever the greens or fruits, they're learning a skill, they're participating in society, adding to society. I don't understand, right, why we can't do that. And it'll help our society, it'll help us damage the planet less, and it'll give people a sense of agency over their food. So, things like that to me is freedom, stuff like that. Having agency over your food production. So just let me know what you think. I think that there was also another point that I wanted to make when it comes to like AI and the harm that it's causing. It's something that's moving so fast, and I think it's another system, like Ecclesiastes mentioned, a striving after the wind moment. And the reason why I say that is because I think what's his name? Let me see, it's on page 15. I think AI is promising us something. Like, we're chasing AI as if we could ever catch it. Like Ecclesiastes says, chasing vanities leads to weariness of our souls. And this guy I follow on Instagram, Mo Gadot, he said in an interview once that he's exhausted because it's changing so fast and AI is doing our jobs. Well, that AI doing our jobs is going to force us into an existential crisis. And I've already said this weeks ago that what I sense is happening is it's going to force people to consider why they're here. It's going to force people to consider, what is God? What is a spirit? what is a soul? You know, it's going to force us into that, because you're not going to be able to just lose yourself in work. You know, at some point, a lot of this work, a lot of entry level jobs, a lot of things are going to be outsourced to computers, right? And so we're going to be forced to consider our lives and consider God and consider what that is for us and consider other people and consider community. I really just feel like this is just another thing that's promising us a better life. And I just can't see how something can promise us a better life. At what cost? If it's costing other people to have terrible lives and ending their lives, I just don't see how that's a success for me. I don't see how someone else being exploited and destroyed and murdered and abused is a win for us as human beings. And then somebody's probably going to be like, well, you know, that's just life. It's been like that forever. But it's like, well, we're not going to be able to do this forever, though. It's just not sustainable. Okay, sorry. It's just not. But we're going to do what we can in the interim. We're going to make the best lives that we can, which means making life better for everyone. I've always felt this, and it's not this like utopian idea or like, you know, perfect world kind of a thing. It's just like, I think on some level, we really just need to think about, what does a better life actually mean? Is my life actually better if I've made it and I still have to walk down the street and see people starving? Like, because for me, like my conscience, like I actually have one, right? So if you don't have one and you can actually live perfectly fine and sleep at night like that, more power to you. I'm not even being like facetious, but I can't though, right? And to me, a better life would be a life where the suffering on this planet was reduced. I know it'll never go away totally. I know that there will always be someone trying to exploit somebody somewhere, but I don't think it needs to be at the level that it's at now. I truly believe that. And I will continue praying every day over this, even if it's just to ease my own soul and ease my own heart so that I can make it through the day without completely melting down. I'll probably be back tomorrow with another video. I have some other ideas that I've been thinking about with regards to Ecclesiastes, that it's brought up so much. Like this 12-week study that I'm doing has just been so profoundly, like, it has just been so many revelations have been things that I didn't see before that I see now. You know, it's like going through this 12-week study guide. The more you read something, like I've already read the book of Ecclesiastes a few times because I have a project that I'm building around it. And so I really need to have a depth of knowledge about this book because I feel like it's so important. It's so enriching, and it relates to so many different topics and things that I'm building right now. And I just really want to share it in a holistic manner, in a fresh manner, in a manner that'll make people see this book in a different light, maybe even possibly. So I hope that you all have a wonderful day, and thank you for stopping by and listening to me ramble and kind of color for a little while. And I hope that your day is blessed. Take care.